If you are an American, you might be wondering, why am I making this video for you guys? Well, in March 2024, the premier competition in the Southern Hemisphere, the NRL, brought 2 games to Vegas in front of 40,000 people. This time around, they're teaming up with the premier competition in the Northern Hemisphere, Super League, to bring you 4 games to an almost sold out Allegiant Stadium. Since Rugby League is heading back to Las Vegas for the 2nd year running, I thought this would be a great opportunity to make an in-depth video on Rugby League with NFL translations to help you understand the sport. But taking a look at the 4 matchups at the Allegiant Stadium in Vegas, Game 1 includes a Super League matchup between the Wigan Warriors and Warrington Wolves. It is then followed by an NRL matchup between the Canberra Raiders and New Zealand Warriors. Then we'll see an international women's test between the Australian Jillaroos and England women's team. And finally, we'll see an NRL matchup between the Penrith Panthers and Cronulla Sharks. The Penrith Panthers and Wigan Warriors are actually the current winners of the NRL and Super League, and the Australian Jillaroos are also the winners of the last Women's Rugby League World Cup in 2022. So we are certainly bringing some of the best that the sport has to offer, including players like Bevan French, who plays for the Wigan Warriors, who I personally believe is the best player in Super League. And you also have players like Nathan Cleary, who plays for the Penrith Panthers, who is widely regarded as, and I'd have to agree, the best player in Rugby League. And in this video, I'm going to go through how the game works, the leagues and major competitions within the sport, player positions, and things to look out for when watching a game of Rugby League. There are 4 sections to get through, each with a lot of detail, so let's get started. This is a typical Rugby League pitch. It's clearly very similar to a field in the NFL, with a few differences. The pitch is 100 metres long, which is approximately 109 yards, with further sections that extend an extra 6 to 11 metres, and the pitch is 68 metres wide. Highlighted, you have the touch lines, try lines, and instead of end zones, we call these the in-goal areas. This back line is called the dead ball line. There are goalposts on each try line in the shape of a capital H. There are also solid white lines every 10 metres, with the 40 metre and sometimes 20 metre lines indicated with red paint. You'll have the on-field referee on the pitch for the whole game, making the majority of decisions as the game flows. You'll have a touch judge on each touchline who will observe the attack and defence from a different view and offer assistance to the on-field referee when needed. Then you'll have the video referee, which the on-field referee will go to in specific circumstances, which I'll get onto later. Let's talk about general play. So here's what you need to know and what you'll see during a game. Rugby League is a possession-based game played over 80 minutes, split into 2 40-minute halves. Each team has 13 players on the pitch with 4 players on the bench, and each team is allowed up to 8 substitutions for the game. All players play both offense and defense and are allowed to kick in general play. On field, each team starts their possession or drive with 6 tackles to advance the ball and score. After 6 tackles, possession switches to the other team. For translation, tackles equals downs. In the NFL, the offense gets 4 downs to advance the ball at least 10 yards in order to get 4 new downs. In Rugby League, you get 6 tackles, but there is no minimum distance to achieve. You just advance the ball as far as you can during that set of 6 tackles. To advance the ball, you can run with it, you can pass the ball either laterally or backwards, or you can kick the ball forwards for teammates to run onto. When it comes to passes, forward passes are not allowed and will result in a turnover. And when it comes to kicking, all attacking players must have both feet behind the ball when the ball is kicked, or they'll be offside. Going back to tackles or downs, typically 2, 3 or 4 defenders will be involved when tackling a player. You're not allowed to make contact with a player's neck or head when tackling, and you can't tackle a player without the ball. Once the tackle is complete, the defensive line must then retreat 10 metres from where the ball is played and stand in line with the referee. Players in front of the referee are offside. The 2 defenders remaining where the ball is played are called markers. After a player is tackled, they must place the ball on the ground and roll the ball back with their foot to start the next play. This is referred to as a play the ball. On the last tackle, teams will often kick or punt the ball away as you sometimes would on 4th down. This is to gain territory, force an error, or pin the opposition back near their try line. There are a few types of kicks in Rugby League. Number 1 is a punt for distance. Number 2 is a bomb. Number 3 is a crossfield kick. Number 4 is a grubber kick. 5 is a chip and chase. And 6 is a 40-20. With a 40-20, if a team kicks the ball from behind their own 40-metre line and the ball goes out of bounds behind the opposition's 20-metre line, the kicking team will keep possession of the ball with a new set of 6 within the opposition's 20-metre zone. In general play, if a player drops a ball forwards, this is called a knock-on. For translation, a knock-on equals fumble. If the ball is dropped backwards, you can recover the ball and continue. If it's dropped forwards, possession will change over. Blocking is also not allowed in Rugby League. You can use decoy runners when attacking, but they cannot be used to obstruct a defender. To recap, typical play will involve 6 downs with a punt on the last down. But depending on current field position, the way in which teams execute on each play, which kick they elect to go with, and where they place those kicks may change. But the way to think about general play, translated from the NFL, is that a set of 6 will be played like a 2-minute drill with no timeouts whilst trying to get into field goal range. Decisions are constantly being made by the organisers on field as the game goes on. Teams want to snap or play the ball as quickly as possible to eat up field position, and so they don't allow the defensive line to get set properly. If you can disrupt the defensive line, wear them down, or outnumber them on one side of the field, you can start to spread the ball around and find gaps in the defence, and eventually put some points on the board. With that, let's move on to section 2, scoring. There are 4 ways to score points in Rugby League. The first method is a try, equal to 4 points. Second is a conversion, equal to 2. Third is a penalty, also equal to 2. And lastly, a drop goal, equal to 1 point. But let's unpack each method. Number 1, which you've heard me say a few times, is try. For translation, a try equals a touchdown. Scoring a try is the main objective during a game as it's worth 4 points. To score a try, the ball carrier must ground the ball either on the try line or somewhere within the in-goal area. It's not enough for the ball to break the plane like in the NFL, you need to stay in control and touch the ball to the ground. If you don't have control, or if you go beyond these 3 lines indicated here, it's not a try. If the referee awards a try, you'll see this action. If a referee is unsure whether to award a try or not, they can go to the video referee who will review the try from multiple angles to make sure that the ball was grounded properly, or to check if there were fouls committed during play. Number 2, conversion. For translation, a conversion equals a PAT. In the NFL, the kick after a touchdown is taken directly in front of the goalposts, but in Rugby League, the conversion is taken in line with where the ball was grounded. For example, if the ball was grounded here, the kick is taken somewhere on this line. If the ball was grounded here, the kick is taken somewhere on this line. It's completely up to the kicker how far back they wish to go. It's a personal balance between distance and angle. For kicks near the touchline, the further back you go, the more distance you need on the kick, but you'll have a wider angle to score the conversion from. Number 3, penalty. There isn't really a translation to the NFL for this one, but it's almost the same as a conversion after a try. A penalty is awarded when a foul has been committed. If the team that has been awarded the penalty chooses to go for a kick at goal, that kick will be taken from the position of the foul. And number 4, drop goal. Again, there isn't a translation to the NFL for this, but a team can score a drop goal in general play by dropping the ball onto the ground and kicking the ball through the goalposts. In the NRL, they implemented a rule where drop goals scored from beyond the 40-metre line are worth 2 points. To review, a try equals a touchdown worth 4 points. A conversion equals a PAT worth 2 points taken after a try. A penalty is also worth 2 points. And a drop goal is worth 1 point, or 2 points in the NRL beyond 40 metres. Finally, when points are scored, the game kicks off again from the halfway line. And unlike in the NFL, the ball is kicked back to the team that just scored. In the Southern Hemisphere, you have the NRL and State of Origin, played in Australia and New Zealand. In the Northern Hemisphere, you have Super League, the Championship and League One. Then you have the Challenge Cup. These competitions are played in England and France. One thing that I do need to cover before we get onto each competition is that instead of a win-loss-draw record system that the NFL has, the standings are determined by league points. Across all leagues, a win is worth 2 points, a loss is worth 0, and a draw is worth 1 point for each team. The more points you have, the higher in the standings you'll be. Let's start with the NRL. The NRL is made up of 17 teams, with 16 from Australia and 1 from New Zealand. The regular season consists of 27 rounds where each team plays 24 games and has 3 bye rounds during the season. After 27 rounds, first place will be crowned the minor premiers, with the top 8 then competing in the NRL finals to become the NRL Premiership winners. For translation, NRL finals just equals playoffs. Looking at the NRL final structure, there are 4 rounds: qualifying and elimination, semi-finals, preliminary finals and grand final. Eventually, we will get to the grand final, which is played at the Accor Stadium in Sydney. I mentioned earlier that the Penrith Panthers are the current NRL winners, but what I didn't mention was that they've played in the last 5 grand finals, winning on the last 4 occasions against 4 different opponents. The next competition is State of Origin. This is a 3-match test series played between 2 states, Queensland and New South Wales. Their team names are known as the Queensland Maroons and the New South Wales Blues. The best way to imagine State of Origin, translated from the NFL, is to imagine if the Pro Bowl was a 3-match test series in the middle of the NFL season, where you could pick the best players from each conference, and they go head to head 3 times, but the main difference is that people care. Like, people really, really care. The level of enthusiasm, the rivalry, the meaning, the quality in these games is on a different level in the world of Rugby League. These games matter. They mean something. You could compare it to divisional matchups like it was the Lions vs Packers or the Bears. You could compare it to Michigan vs Ohio State. You could compare it to the Super Bowl. People care about these games a lot. And I would definitely encourage you, if you get the chance, to watch a State of Origin game. Watch the highlights over the last couple of years of all the State of Origin games. It's some of the best rugby league you are ever going to see. Moving on to the Northern Hemisphere, I'll cover 2 of the major competitions in more detail, which are Super League and the Challenge Cup, as the Championship and League One are tiers below Super League. Starting with Super League, there are 12 teams, with 11 based in England and 1 based in France. There are 27 regular season rounds, same as the NRL, but there are no bye rounds. After 27 rounds, first place wins a trophy called the League Leaders Shield. This trophy is currently held by Las Vegas attendees, Wigan Warriors. The top 6 will then compete in playoffs. Looking at the Super League playoff structure, there are only 3 rounds in this system, with elimination, semi-finals and grand final. First and second place will automatically advance to the semi-finals and wait to find out who they play. When we get to the grand final, it's played at Old Trafford in England, the home of football club Manchester United. Both finalists compete for 80 minutes and the winner will take home the biggest trophy in the Northern Hemisphere. As mentioned earlier, this trophy is also held by Las Vegas attendees Wigan Warriors, which they've won back to back. Next is the Challenge Cup, first played in 1896. This cup competition sees 69 teams compete in a single elimination bracket from January to June. One thing to note is that fixtures are decided by a randomised draw. Each team is given a number in the draw. The first number pulled out at random is the home team, the second number is the away team, and this is done for every matchup in every round. Round 1 starts with 34 UK-based community teams, such as teams from smaller conference or regional leagues, as well as service teams, which are the GB Police, Royal Navy, Royal Air Force and British Army. Round 2 will see 12 of the 13 championship teams and all 11 League One teams join. Round 3 will then see all 12 Super League clubs enter. There is another draw, but after some changes to the Challenge Cup format in 2025, all Super League clubs will play away in Round 3. Round 4, quarterfinals and semi-finals will go back to normal, with both semi-final matches being played at a neutral stadium. The Challenge Cup final is then held in June, played at the iconic Wembley Stadium in London. The Wigan Warriors are also the current holders of this trophy when they beat the Warrington Wolves earlier in 2024, so we'll be seeing that matchup again in Vegas. At this point, you might be thinking, wouldn't it be great if we could see the best NRL team match up against the best Super League team? Great idea. I present to you the World Club Challenge. Every year, towards the start of each season, one team will fly to the other side of the world to compete in a single game to be crowned World Club Champions. It says world, but it is basically Australia vs England. Anyway, since Penrith and Wigan both won in 2023, the Penrith Panthers flew over to England to take on the Wigan Warriors. After 80 minutes of high quality rugby league and a few controversial calls, the Wigan Warriors picked up their first trophy of the 2024 season. Before then, of course, taking the Challenge Cup, then the League Leaders Shield, then winning the Grand Final. But it's just winning all trophies that you could possibly win in a season, no big deal. It's unclear whether the 2025 World Club Challenge will actually go ahead, but if it does, we'll see Wigan versus Penrith once again. In terms of where you can actually watch NRL games from North America, in the United States, Fox Sports US shows 3 regular season games per week, all finals matches and all State of Origin matches. For Super League games, Super League Plus is your best bet. You can watch up to 4 live matches per week from there for roughly $25 a month or $164 annually. Highlights for all games will be posted to each league's YouTube channel, which I'll leave a link to in the description down below. So here are the positions in Rugby League. Of course, a game isn't played in this formation, but this is how Rugby League lineups are displayed. I'll go through each number, the position they represent, and I'll briefly explain the role of each position. There are 2 main sections to a Rugby League team. First is the forwards, which are kind of like the O-line. They're doing a lot of the hard work up front and laying a foundation for the playmakers. Then you have the backs, which includes the guys that get to make the flashy plays once the forwards have given you the platform to work from. Starting with the backs, here you have number 1. This is the fullback. They often link up with other playmakers in attack, and they're good under the high ball and return effectively. They're also responsible for keeping the defensive line equally matched up to the opposition's attack. Then we have numbers 2 and 5. These are the wingers. They're usually the fastest players in the league, but they need to be reliable when scoring tries in the corners, especially in tight spaces. If they're also an aerial threat from kicks, that's a bonus. Inside of the wingers we have 3 and 4, the centres. They're sometimes put under a lot of pressure in attack and defence, and they need to make quick decisions and be able to read what's going on. They need to find gaps when attacking and know who to jam into when defending. In this section, called the halves, we first have the number 6. In Australia, it's called the 5/8. In England, it's called standoff. Next is the number 7, which is called the halfback in Australia and scrum half in England. Something to make this a little easier for now is just referring to a 6 or 7 as a halfback. That works pretty universally in both parts of the world for either position. The number 6 is one of the organisers and key playmakers that you want with the ball as often as possible, and they're usually pulling the strings with the run game. Some of the most skillful, intelligent, creative and fast-thinking players in the history of the game have played at number 6. With the number 7, they're usually the ones controlling the kicking game, but also maintaining organisation through a set, and are usually thinking a few steps ahead. The 6 and 7 are probably the closest positions you'll get to a QB in Rugby League, and the best ones know how to read, control, and change a game when needed. Moving on to the forwards. This is known as the front row, which consists of the first 2 numbers, 8 and 10. These are called props. Very simply, these are the big guys that you don't want running at you. They'll take a lot of huge hits in the middle of the field and set the tempo in the forward pack and try and get quick snaps or play the balls. They'll have to make a lot of tackles versus other big players and get through a lot of ugly work during the game. In the middle of the front row is the number 9, called the hooker. This is the guy at the snap or play the ball most often. They basically have a read option at the start of each play and will run themselves if they get a quick play the ball. Hookers can read the defensive line quickly and can eat up field position if a defensive line is out of shape or a defender isn't set. Then we have a section called the back row, with numbers 11 and 12. The position is second row. Second rowers are loosely capable of doing a little bit of everything. They can take big hits if needed, whether that's defending against the big guys or running into them. In attack, they help to link between the halves and the outside backs. And the best second rowers have a good mix between size, speed and skill. Finally, we have number 13. In Australia, it's called a lock. Here in England, it's called loose forward. Most other positions usually have more of an attacking focus, but this is the one position where I think having a defensive-minded player really helps. The role has evolved to a point where they're a lot more present and effective in the attacking structure, but you do need a lock or loose forward that can hit hard, get through a lot of work, can be a tank and take hits on defense, and can understand how to be effective on offense. One element of a team that's helpful to know is something known as the spine, which is talked about a lot in today's game. This is basically your group of playmakers that get to make everything look good. The spine is comprised of 4 players: the fullback at number 1, the 5/8 or standoff at number 6, the halfback or scrum half at number 7, and the hooker at number 9. They'll be in constant communication, reading the defense, calling plays, and managing the game. There are some NFL players that I would be very interested in seeing have a go at Rugby League, such as Tyreek Hill or DK Metcalf playing at the wing position. That would be interesting given their speed. Even players like Lamar Jackson, with his incredible skill set, he could try his hand at number 1 or number 6, maybe even number 9. And then you've even got Travis Kelce, who loves a lateral. My God, does he love a lateral. And if he wants to do more of them, he should just try Rugby League. But I do think somebody like him, with the role that he has to take on as a tight end and given his skill set, would be interesting to see in the second row position. But of course, the best way to learn about anything is just diving into it and just soaking in as much information as possible. Watch some games, learn a little bit more about the positions, even more than what I've told you in this video, and just get to grips with everything. And hopefully, you can pick up a lot as you go. The very last thing I have to say is thank you for watching this video if you managed to make it this far. If you're ever unsure where to start and you want to keep up with how things are going in some of the major competitions, I'll be making weekly videos around the NRL and Super League, which are usually power rankings and predictions videos, so you can stay up to date that way. I'll also be doing live commentary during some games if you ever want to stop by and talk about the sport. And I also released a website a few months ago, kineticrl.com. And if you go to the leagues page, you can see the latest standings and results from each competition. And you can also see the teams in each league and get to know them. Also, when the major international competitions come around at the end of each season, I'll be making content on those. Again, all of that can be found here on my YouTube channel as well as the international page of my website. I'll also leave links to the NRL and Super League websites in the description, as well as a few Rugby League related videos that I think you should probably take a look at to help you get into things. And I'll label those as the must-watch links below. Finally, if you have any questions about absolutely anything, just ask and I will do my best to answer them, and hopefully other people in the Rugby League community can help you out as well. But ladies and gentlemen of the United States, or wherever you are watching from, feel free to leave a like. It does help to get the video out there to more people. Subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with more Rugby League content, and follow my social medias in the description down below. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I will see you next time.